Hello and welcome back to another video. First and foremost, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who watched my previous video and who left words of encouragement, feedback. That's all been very greatly appreciated, and it's very heartwarming for me to see that there is interest in this type of content and that the English Baduk community is supportive of it. So going forward, I'm going to continue to make more videos. And without further ado, I'm going to jump right into the topic for today, which is this position on the right side of the board. And as you can see, black has invested a lot of moves um, onto the right side of the board and kind of has a nice influence plus potential territory building up here. And for us amateur players, it can be a little bit intimidating for us to kind of think about how we're going to jump in and kind of nullify some of this. Not all of it, but some of it in an effective manner. And I know other content creators have kind of gone over this, but I thought there were some other interesting variations I can add and show you guys. So I'm creating this video. There will be a second video related to this, but it will be focusing on the stone position of black being here, which is a large knight instead of the small knight. And the reason why and also before we go into it, I want to note that I will be leaving timestamps in the video description below. So if you do want to kind of jump around, if you do already have a solid understanding of some of these positions, definitely feel free to do so. But first and foremost, this attachment by white is usually not played when black has a knight's position because black's hane on top of white kind of forces white into this corner, and if it's a large knight, white has more room to maneuver, and so this is actually something that is played by white, this attachment, if there's a large knight. But because it's a small knight, this stone is more helpful in kind of restricting white, and so white doesn't feel comfortable with the attachment. So if it is a small knight, white would play something here or here. And we're going to go over these two moves as well. So when white plays here, black will block, white will push up, black will block, excuse me, and white will create a base. And you can see that black has really nice solid territory here. Everything's looking pretty clean. Black could even play something like this, and then white eventually will be forced to go out to the center, right? So white will oftentimes play this move. And what this move is asking black to do is to play here. Because if black plays here, white will connect, black will connect, white will push, black will extend, and then white will jump out. And what this does is it kind of reduces black territory because black, instead of having this move be here, it's now pushed back here, and so the territory is smaller. Also, this knight move is a little bit too close. You normally want it to be like, if it's a large knight, it would be a lot better for white in this case. But this is a little bit too congested, and white has a really solid shape here. So black will not do that usually. Black will play this move here, and this will force white to extend. And this is where we all just kind of usually mess up because a lot of us will play this Atari here. And we can't really help it because sometimes our hands just move faster than our eyes, and sometimes this seems like a very powerful move, so we'll just kind of like dive right into it. But this is a really bad move for black because white will play here. And black's an Atari, right? So black has two options. Black can take this, or black can connect. If black takes, then white will Atari back, and there are no co-threats in the beginning, right? So black is kind of forced to do this, and then white will push, 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 and now black can't Atari this way because then capturing these three stones or laddering this black stone is Miai. So black must play here. White will connect. Black must save these three stones. White will push, push, and then play something like this or this. Doesn't really matter. How does this look to you? How does this board position look to you? A lot of you might prefer black. This looks like a lot of territory, right? But this is actually very pale in comparison to what white has on the top side of the board in terms of its influence, and also the lower side has potential development or room for potential development as well. I usually don't like using AI to analyze a lot of things too much because I think it's more important for us, especially as amateur players, to kind of understand the human logic first before we try to understand the AI logic, just because like none of us have the analytical ability that AI does. So if we don't even understand the human logic behind something, then why should we try to understand like AI logic? But in any case, I did plug this position into the AI, and this is like 90% good for white. So that's really, really huge. And it's definitely something we need to feel comfortable as white playing. So definitely, black's territory is definitely big, but do keep in mind, like even later down the line, stuff like this can work depending on the stone positions around it. So definitely, it's not all territory either. And so going back um, to this position, if black does choose to connect rather than capture the white stone, white can just Atari here, and this is asking black, do you want to save this black stone here? Because if black captures, then white can capture this black stone. This is huge. This is total destruction of black's potential, black's potential that he had earlier. So this is really, really good for white. And of course, if black decides to save the stone, then white will just take this black stone here and get a big corner. Also note that this white stone is not latterable, so in the future, stuff like this can also, work. And this is also a really, really good outcome for white. Um, so if neither of those moves are good, then what's the correct move? Um, it is this move, this extension by black. When this happens, white will Atari, and then extend here. And what this is telling black to do is, if you extend here, I'm going to capture these two stones and get a huge corner. So black, you must play here or here. And in that case, white will Atari, and push. If black plays this move again to prevent white from hitting him here and forcing him to capture the stone, white can play something like this. And if black chooses to defend, then white will play here and then make this beautiful shape, and then black will make some kind of shape like this. Looking at this, who do you like more? I think a lot of you guys would say black. And I think it really does come down to preference, because for somebody who likes territory, I really like territory. I like black in this scenario because, this is very clean up top in this top corner. Also, there's, a pretty good amount of territory here as well. But for somebody who likes influence a lot, they could have seen this as being very successful for white. White's kind of been able to go out to the center very cleanly, and also has been able to damage black's potential here. So it really comes down to who you like or what kind of style you like more. But this is more 50-50. Of course, like the AI recommends moves like this and like this. I don't know, like this all the time, and like in that which case it could lead to some kind of complicated fighting like this. But if it's better for black, it's not better by much. And I think the more important thing is to kind of have this logic in place and not be afraid of something like this either way, because you're gonna have to fight anyway. So definitely, it's good to be able to experiment with these kinds of things, but it is a pretty even situation overall. So that is the variation that does occur if black plays correctly, which is by playing this move and then of course following up like this. Um, Now that covers the wedge that white does here. If white doesn't play this move, but rather plays this move, then black has two options. One is here, one is here. If black plays here, white will extend, black will play this move here, white will make some shape, black will just, you know, extend downwards, and white will jump. And then this is kind of how the sequence works. But there are some variations in here. So for instance, what happens if white plays here first? You know, this is threatening to capture this black stone. You know, these are the kinds of move that when somebody does this to us, we get, you know, I can get pretty angry sometimes and be like, how dare they like try to do this, you know? This is such an overplay and whatnot. And, you know, at the moment, it seems like this is actually, you know, the correct response. White can't really do anything, you know, white can't do this. But what will happen is white will just continue to play as normal. And if you are white, just continue to play as normal in this situation. You make this shape, you know, white is out towards the center, you know, black is solid here and solid here as well. Black can tanuki. And then as white, this is when you can play something like this. And as black, this is kind of when you want to start pulling out your hair, right? Because if this white stone wasn't here, you would respond, you know, to this move like by playing something like this, right? Obviously, this move is a huge overplay, but because this white stone is here, white can play something like this. Are you going to block like this? Then white, you know, white can just do something like this. Doesn't even have to do much. Now you captured, and then black, as black, you're going to have to put another move down here or you're going to be in trouble, you know? And now you just gave white a panuki. Or, as black, are you going to extend up? This is probably the worst one you can do, because then white play here, you know, these two stones are in danger, black will play here. You know, now you got to protect these stones again, so you got to play here. And then now as white, you captured these two stones. This black is not alive if white extends down. You know, you have to capture. This is like, we kind of say in Korean, like, you know, you're shedding tears of blood at this point. And if that's not the case, then are you going to capture? Then you lose these two stones. So this kind of move, you know, even if you play something like this, you know, white doesn't even have to try to do anything. Like white can play something like this potentially, but you know, even if white plays something like this, you're gonna have to play here, or you're gonna have to play here or like here. In which case, white will do something like this, and then like look at black's shape. Of course, white is running on that second line, and you know this is turning into a bit of a fight. But you know, if you're feeling like you're behind as white, this is definitely something you can do. And obviously, you know, the best way for black to actually kind of deal with this is to play here. In which case, you know, even if white plays here, eventually white's gonna kind of have to run on that second line. And so this doesn't really turn into much for white, because you know the influence that black is gaining here by forcing white to run on the second line could be very useful. So that is kind of the way to deal with it, with if white plays this move. But what if white plays here? Then you're in trouble, because if you play here, white will just play here. You know, now these stones are endangered, and then like this, now white's kind of crossed over, right? And then black's territory is just evaporated. Again, do you want to try to punish this? Are you going to try to play something like this? White will play here. Are you going to try to push up again? It's going to lead to that same variation, where, you know, white does this and then pushes up and then two stones are gone. Or are you going to, in that case, you know, block here? Then again, it can turn into the same exact scenario. Are you going to play here? In that case, white will Atari and connect. Black is forced to play this. Now white can play here, here, And now it's 4 liberties to 4 liberties. At a certain point in time, black's going to have to start thinking about this. And then as white, you can kind of force black to run along the second line. And this is very, very good for white. So the actual correct response here would be this. But, you know, if this stone wasn't here, would you, as black, ever play this? And if white played here, no, you'd be thinking of stuff like this, right? So as white, you know, you're getting hit with punch after punch in this kind of situation. So if you don't want to deal with that as black, when white plays this, I would just recommend playing here. And, you know, white will just continue to play the same. And, you know, this is an absolutely playable situation. What happens if white plays here, though? This looks like pretty good shape. What happens? Is there anything black can do in this position? You can definitely pause the video and think about it. Your first response or your first inclination might be here, but if white pushes out, you know, you have to capture this black stone, and then white is alive very cleanly. So this is not good. This is the correct vital point. Of course, you do not have to do this immediately. You know, black, if there are other bigger spots on the board, black can continue to play and kind of divide up the board, and then hit white with this move. If white plays here, black will play here. Black will not play here. White will just throw away these stones, and I think that's something that we have to also be aware of, is that this is small. And a lot of times, you know, we as players, we struggle to throw away stones like this, but we need to be able to do so, and white definitely would. If black plays here and white blocks, then now this becomes a lot bigger of a capture when white doesn't really have a base and hasn't jumped out yet either. If white connects, then black, this is good endgame where black kind of gets rid of all of white's base and also solidifies his territory here. You know, white can think of playing something like this, but then black will play here. White cannot jump out again, because then something like this will happen and white's completely cut off. So white will play here. And then that does it for this variation. Another thing black can consider doing is playing something like this. The knight's move. And when you want to do the knight's move, because this is kind of like a loose move, the timing of this is like when, if black has like, you know, stones like here, then something like this is actually good for developing both sides. If white attaches, then black can just extend. White will play here, play here, and then just jump. And then this is pretty solid territory. It looks good for black, right? But do keep in mind that in the future, you know, you do have a monkey jump here, and you also this push here is sente, and also can lead to another monkey jump as well, if black just chooses to extend. Let's go back to here. Black plays this, and then this shape, right? But what happens if white wants to, if white's playing something, playing around the board, and there's something very urgent that white needs to play, you know, and white like plays this point, for instance, black would try to go about capturing this, and you know, here white can look pretty dead, but there is a move for white to survive. And so, you know, you can definitely pause the video if need be, but definitely take a look at this and think about what is the vital point. So, you know, there is a saying, you know, if we're playing on the side, on the second line, 6 lines is dead, 8 lines is alive, and 7 lines comes down to whoever plays first. And if we talk about the corner, 4 lines is dead and 6 lines is alive. So if we have white just, play a move here, and black plays here, and then white plays this move, then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white stones, and 6 in the corner is alive, right? Doesn't matter what black does. But what happens if black plays here? Now we don't have the corner, so we have to go by the side, and if white does this and this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in the side is dead, 8 is alive, and 7 comes down to who plays first, so white here is dead by a lot. So what is the vital point for white? It's this move right here. Because now, if black plays in the corner, white will just make an eye here, and, white is alive. And if black doesn't do that and chooses to play here, then of course white can just play here. And this is 4, which is a living shape in the corner. White is alive. Of course, this isn't recommended because look how hemmed in white is. So even if there is some really, really big vital point, it's recommended or if there's some really big area of the board that you really want to play, it's usually still recommended for you to do, for you to do this, and then let black play away. But of course, if it's something really big and it's extremely urgent, then definitely you can still play away from this point here as white. And so that does it for this move and this move as white. Again, we're going to be using this primarily when it is a small knight's move. If it's large knight, then we can start thinking about this. Of course, in this position as well, black would play either here or here. We're going to cover it in the next video. But in any case, thank you for watching up to this point. I'm going to continue to make videos, so stay tuned to that. If you like the content, please like or subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.